Okay, let's get started here. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Save the Bay's 53rd annual meeting.
Wow.
My name is Gib Conover, and I am the board chair of Save the Bay, and I will be acting as the sort of the master of ceremonies tonight. The good part of that is that you won't have to hear me talk very much because I'll just be introducing other people. But anyways, we should get on with the program. And this is special because Save the Bay has had a long string of good years, but this is the best of the good years. This has been a spectacular year, and there's so much for us to celebrate in terms of accomplishments. And the other thing is that tonight's festivities are extra special because we will be celebrating the retirement of Jonathan Stone, who has led Save the Bay for the past 15 years, and a very spectacular 15 years. So there's a lot to say there, but I'm not going to go into it now. We have some other things planned for later in the evening. But what I did want to say is it's nice to welcome everybody here, to see so many faces, to see our members, our volunteers, our donors. You guys are what make Save the Bay happen. We couldn't do it without you. And so, a big thank you to everyone here. And I have to read the notes here. I guess what I want to say is that you enable us to do the work, to do the advocacy work, to do the restoration work, to do the education work, and all of it is really to improve and protect Narragansett Bay, and we couldn't do it without you. The other thing that I wanted to recognize here is our event sponsors. I think there's actually a list right in front of me here. There's also some lists around there on our website, but certainly they are also a big part that enables us to have events like this and do the work that we do. So moving on, normally at this point in the program, we would have our treasurer, Bud Cummings, come up and give the treasurer's report. Well, Bud can't be with us tonight, so in his place, Ruth Mullen, who is actually the chair of our investment committee, will be coming up and giving the treasurer's report, and I'll hand it over to Ruth.
Thank you, Gib. Hi, everybody. The numbers that I talk about here are for the fiscal year that ended June 2022. So we're almost at the end of the fiscal year ending June 2023. So they're a little out of date, but they are part of the spectacular setup. Let's put it that way for this year that we're in now. And I'm going to talk about very few numbers because we know no one's really interested in that, and read the report that Bud did prepare before he went away. And I think those of you who know Bud will recognize his very dry wit in this. And it's definitely, this is Bud. And I wish it could be me, but it's Bud. Okay. I'm pleased to report that for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022, Save the Bay's total expenses increased by 29.5% over the prior year to $3.8 million, and we couldn't be happier. Now, it sounds a little weird, and I see some quizzical faces in the audience, probably because it's not often that a finance report starts out with a large jump in spending as the headline, and that we're happy about it. But as Bud says, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. In fact, we wish the increase was even larger. So before someone shuts off my microphone, let me explain. Think about what Save the Bay does. It advocates, it educates, and it restores. In fiscal 2021, the nation began to come out of the COVID shutdown, but its impact was still felt by all phases of our organization. Advocacy initiatives were limited because Smith Hill was effectively shut down. There was no legislation. Program activities had effectively ground to a halt, as in-person activities were slow to recover, impacting everything from the education center at Easton's Beach to school kids coming here to the Bay Center to summer camps. This all feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? But it was very impactful. And with social distancing still being practiced by many, restoration activity was also limited. In order for us to conduct these activities, we must spend money. We need supplies and extra bodies for the majority of the restoration work we win bids on, fuel for the boats, etc. For part of 2021, these expenses were not paid as the activity didn't take place or was severely limited. So that's part of the increase in expenses from 21 to 22. The same holds true for the education programs. Easton's was closed for part of the year. We didn't need the same level of extra staff for all of the other ed-related programs we run, including the camps, SEAL tours, classroom learning, etc. But 2022 saw a return to a more normal year full of activities of all phases of our mission. Thus the increase in expenses and our happiness in seeing those numbers increase. So it took a while, but hopefully you now understand why we're happy about that. In this business, the more we spend, the more progress we're making in advocating, educating, and restoring, and that's why we're here. I will also note that once again, management came through with its usual efficiency and positive results in that the vast majority of the staff were retained, and we were able to hit the ground running as life returned to normal. And by the way, the total revenue in COVID impact fiscal 2021 was $2.558 million. In fiscal 22, it jumped to $7.872 million. By revenue category, the largest year-over-year jump was seen in contributions, gifts, and grants, going from $1.936 million to $6.764 million. So, very impressive. The key takeaway in both years was that our loyal contributors and grantors stuck with us, and for that we thank you. We cherish the trust that you put in us to spend your money wisely and never take that for granted. We also received great cooperation from grantors that allowed us to push work projects from 21 to 22, for which we were also grateful. Some of the contributions in that big jump were capital in nature. They were funding our education, restoration, and resiliency efforts, and a little bit of the aquarium funding came into that fiscal year as well. The current fiscal year, 2023, saw the bulk of it, but it began then. But the number that jumped off the page to me was program revenue that captures our outstanding education team. Easton's Beach activities, summer camps, SEAL tours, and all of that jumped from $53,000 in 2021 to $443,000 in 2022. Kudos to you, Bridget, and your team. The team that put together that a year ago put together the brilliant Breakfast by the Bay virtual school programming was back in their element and knocked it out of the park once again. It's not the biggest revenue number, but to me, the short and long-term impact on what that team does cannot be overstated. And as we get closer to the opening of the new aquarium in the coming months, I, for one, cannot wait to see what they have in store there for all of us. It's going to be fun. One final story relates to a statement Bud made a year ago at this event where he said that our staff is the most important asset in the organization, though they're not reflected on our balance sheet. The work they do, however, does have a major impact on the balance sheet, though they may not realize it themselves. It started when a couple of kids came to Easton's. This is a great story. A couple of kids came to Easton's to see our aquarium. They were greeted by Adam, or one of his staff, who did what they love to do every day and educated them on the animals that are there and in the bay. They went home that night and couldn't stop talking about it about their experience as their parents just sat and took it all in. Fast forward to a couple of months ago when Jonathan received a phone call from someone in Newport who had mentioned to someone he works for that we were raising funds for the aquarium. The individual, who lives out of state but spends time in Rhode Island every summer, was the father of these kids who thought it might be something that he would be interested in donating to. He asked for information about the project that Jonathan just happened to have available. And he and Jonathan subsequently ended up having a 15-minute phone conversation that ended with the promise of a contribution. Several days later, a 6-figure check was received. So that was just a great story. All because Adam and his staff showed up for work that day and did what they're so good at, educating the future stewards of the Bay. So thank you all. And if you have any questions, save them for next year when Bud's back.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruth. Next up, I'd like to introduce Robin Boss, who is chair of our nominating and governance committee, to present a slate of board members.
Thank you, Gib. Hello, everybody. Hopefully the rain's going to hold off. I think we've had one wet taste of the Bay in recent years, so I'm hopeful. If the treasurer's report is dry, what I'm doing is even drier. But bear with me. I'm pleased to present the following slate of board members for a 3-year term beginning July 1st, 2023. And I'd ask each person to stand if they're here when their name is announced and remain standing for the vote. Gib Conover, Chris Lee, Lynn Manning, Jean McDermott, Elizabeth Mendenhall, Ruth Mullen, Linda Pearson, Sam Slade, and George Schuster. Are there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, I would like a motion from the floor to accept the slate for 2023.
So moved.
May I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations on your renewal. The slate's approved. One of the other things that we get to do at this meeting is to say goodbye to departing board members, and we have one retiring board member this year, Alan Nathan. Alan, if you're here, would you please stand? I thought, there he is. Alan has been involved with the Save the Bay board since 1974, which was just a few years after this organization was formed. He has served more than 30 combined years in 3 stints on the Save the Bay board. His consistent determination to protect Narragansett Bay is unmatched, and his support for Save the Bay is unwavering. Alan's board colleagues describe his influence as quiet, gentle, behind the scenes, and highly collegial and effective. He has convened lunches to strategize fundraising, and he has coordinated carpools to board meetings with fellow board members. His depth of institutional knowledge will be dearly missed. Alan, we thank you for your wise counsel, your leadership and commitment to Narragansett Bay and to Save the Bay. Thank you. Next, I'd like to present the newest members of our President's Leadership Council. They are Carol and David Bazarski, Judy and Kim Davis, Devin McShane, Jane and Dr. Gregory Austin, Alan Nathan, Fran and Dennis Slutsky. Thank you to those members of the President's Leadership Council who are ardent supporters of the organization, of our executive director, of our board, and we welcome you to that council. And lastly, I would very much like to thank all of the board, committee, the President's Leadership Council members, and all of the trustees for their ongoing service, commitment, and support to Save the Bay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Now, as we do every year, we would like to present some awards. And in doing this, we're going to have various people come up and give these awards. What we do ask is that the winners of these awards hang around after the meeting is over, because then we're going to be taking some pictures rather than try and take time up when we're in the middle of the awards. So for the first award, I would like to introduce July Lewis, who's our volunteer and internship manager, to present the Volunteer of the Year Award. July.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Save the Bay has over 2,000 volunteers that participate with us annually, and they are all incredible. So it is always my great pleasure to shine the spotlight on one of our most exceptional supporters, and this year we are honoring Renee Houle. You got to hear more from me. Renee began volunteering for Save the Bay regularly in 2021 as a cleanup volunteer with Rebecca Farnloff. And Rebecca definitely gets honorable mention this year, for sure. They were so dedicated and prepared at these cleanups that I approached them about cleanup leadership, which is one of our biggest needs. And they both became cleanup leaders, and Renee quickly became our most frequent and dedicated cleanup leader. As cleanup season wound down, she said, maybe I could do some other projects. We did not know what we were in for. She started coming into the office regularly to digitize our education waivers. She shreds the old waivers and takes them directly to Rhode Island Resource Recovery so they can be properly recycled. She volunteered for the swim. She did the great NIP pickup challenge. She started doing tabling events for Save the Bay, most recently at the State House with Topher. That was awesome. She made connections with corporate donors for us. She does our thankathon calls, recently completing 855, if I got it right? 884. 884 thank you calls to our members. So, yeah, thank you. So that was awesome. So, You may have gotten one of those calls. As of today, Renee has logged 464.5 volunteer hours, with more every week. Renee is a volunteer powerhouse, and we are so grateful that she has adopted Save the Bay as her charity of choice. We love having her on the team and working with her in the office and out on the beach. Her dedication, leadership, and willingness to do whatever is needed most make Renee especially deserving of the honor of Save the Bay's Volunteer of the Year Award. Congratulations, Renee, and thank you. Photos are afterwards, but that's a card. That is a thank you card for the thank you volunteer extraordinaire.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay, next up are the Education Awards, and I'm pleased to introduce Bridget Prescott, our Director of Education.
Hello, everybody. Great to see everyone out here. I'm super excited and honored to present these next awards to two really special people who really help us embody Save the Bay's vision of inspiring future generations of Narragansett Bay. These two are called the Bay Educator of the Year, which really acts as the inspiration, and the Bay Student of the Year, who is really a reflection of that inspiration. So for the first, our Bay Educator of the Year, we are honoring Charles Waddell. He has been a champion for Save the Bay's education program for close to a decade. Charles is a high school science teacher at Mount Hope High in Bristol. He's always looking for ways to engage his students in hands-on activities in learning about the Bay that has resulted in him walking his students to the nearest marsh, which is Silver Creek Marsh. He uses it as one of his primary classrooms. Charles meets his students and Save the Bay educators at Silver Creek monthly to learn about marsh functions, monitor a variety of environmental conditions, and eventually plant native grasses. Now we're talking about getting high school kids excited about going into a salt marsh throughout the school year. So you can just say that he definitely deserves this award. In fact, we've even had some of his past students receive our Bay Student of the Year award for work that they've done at their school and in their community. It is because of passionate teachers like Charles who are dedicated to our youth that continually inspire us here at Save the Bay in our work in developing the next generation of Bay stewards. Unfortunately, Charles isn't here tonight. He had a personal obligation, but doesn't mean we can't give him a round of applause and congratulate him. All right, on to our next award. All right, so our next award goes to a young woman who is known by our educators and staff because of her love and dedication to marine science in Narragansett Bay. Mackenzie Barrett just finished her freshman year at St. Paul's Academy in New Hampshire and is a resident of Exeter, Rhode Island. She is a passionate environmental advocate and has participated in some of our Save the Bay beach cleanups, and most notably has been a familiar face at our Exploration Center and Aquarium during her school breaks as one of our lead student volunteers. She even convinced her parents to join her in volunteering at the Exploration Center. So thank you for that. As Adam and Jess state, Mackenzie is always excited and curious about learning and teaching new things to our guests at our Exploration Center. So much so that she'll be joining us again this summer as an intern. We hope her love of Narragansett Bay continues and that she continues to be a part of our work here at Save the Bay. Please join me in congratulating our Bay Student of the Year, Mackenzie Barrett.
Okay, I would now like to introduce Topher Hamlet, who's our Director of Advocacy, who will present the Allison Walsh Award for Outstanding Environmental Advocacy and also our Environmental Achievement Award. Topher?
Hi, everyone. Each year we remember Allison Walsh, who was Save the Bay's Director of Advocacy and a tenacious fighter for the environment. When she passed away in 2003, her husband Bill honored her advocacy and her life by establishing the Allison J. Walsh Award for Outstanding Environmental Advocacy. Today we recognize John Marsland for his decades-long commitment to the Blackstone River. In 1990, the EPA named the Blackstone America's most polluted river for toxics. That same year, John founded Friends of the Blackstone to advocate for the river's restoration. In 2006, he merged Friends of the Blackstone with the Blackstone River Watershed Council and was on the ground floor for the creation of the Blackstone River Coalition, which was the coming together of advocacy groups on both sides of the border, Massachusetts and Rhode Island, to fight for the river. John has removed literally tons of trash from the river during cleanup events. He has spoken out for all river advocates, demanding action and accountability for the release of raw sewage from sewage treatment plants on the river. He's organized and participated in expedition events in which people paddle the Blackstone from the headwaters in Worcester all the way down here to Narragansett Bay to raise awareness and inspire action by citizens and decision makers alike. John has mobilized hundreds of citizens to support the restoration of fish passage on the lower four dams of the river. We're inspired by John's commitment to building relationships on the common ground of love and respect for the river with the Narragansetts, the Nipmucs, and other indigenous peoples with deep ancient connections to the river they call Kittikuk, which means Great Tidal River. He recently co-directed a film called Kittikut Speaks, which explores what the river would say to all of us if it could speak. All of us on the staff who have been fortunate to know John and work with him have deep respect and admiration for him. He speaks for the Blackstone River, for Kittikut, and all who appreciate its beauty, history, and importance. Allison Walsh would be inspired by your advocacy, John. So please come on up and accept our Allison J. Walsh Outstanding Environmental Advocacy Award. Now for the 2023 Environmental Achievement Award. This goes to the Committee for the Great Salt Pond. In the mid-1980s, the Great Salt Pond, a spectacular place in the heart of Block Island, was threatened with sewage pollution and overdevelopment. It was on the brink. Fortunately, a group of concerned Block Islanders took action by forming the Committee for the Great Salt Pond with a mission to, quote, protect and enhance the environmental quality of the pond and its watershed, including its shoreline and wetlands, and to promote appropriate and productive uses of the pond's resources by residents, visitors, and local businesses. For 26 years, the committee has been the voice for the Great Salt Pond, pulling it back from the brink and leading the way to its cleanup, restoration, and ongoing protection. They've monitored its waters, and successfully advocated for marine pump-out facilities and better septic systems to improve water quality. You can literally see the results in the diversity of marine life in the pond, in its thriving aquaculture, and in people enjoying its waters with peace of mind, something unthinkable when the committee was formed. They've championed protection and restoration of coastal buffers and fragile dune systems, and inspired community stewardship through its awareness and education programs. And last but certainly not least, the committee, along with the Block Island Conservancy, the town of New Shoreham, and the Block Island Land Trust, waged the ultimate defense of the Great Salt Pond by winning a nearly 20-year battle against the proposed marina expansion by Champlin's Marina. They overcame years of procedural hurdles, I'll call them, at CRMC, and then the infamous backroom deal among CRMC council members and the marina that was ultimately struck down by the Rhode Island Supreme Court thanks to their advocacy. It's no surprise then that now the committee is one of the leading voices in the state for the reform of the Coastal Resources Management Council. So to celebrate its 2.5 decades plus of accomplishments and persistent advocacy, Save the Bay is pleased to present its Environmental Achievement Award to the Committee for the Great Salt Pond, and I'll welcome one of its co-founders, Claire Costello, up, along with one of its board members, Sven Riesem. Let's hear it for you guys.
Congratulations and thank you to all of our award members. And so normally at this point in the program, we would be turning this over for our executive director's report. But we have one point of business to do before that, and that is to make an announcement. The board of directors is pleased to announce that Topher Hamlet will be the interim executive director of Save the Bay starting July 1st. Topher, stand up. Stand up. Topher is our as most of you already know, Topher is our long-term director of advocacy, and we are confident that Save the Bay is going to be in good hands when Jonathan Stone begins sailing off into the sunset. But speaking of Jonathan, I think what we'd like to do now is, excuse me, call some staff and people up here to help us honor Jonathan. So I think the people who are coming up know who they are. And I see some people rising here. Okay. And I am going to turn it over to them.
This is scary.
Yeah, they're still coming, Jonathan.
Maureen's got the mic.
I've been waiting for this for 15 years. Thank you, Gib. We're going to get to some tributes for Jonathan in a few minutes, but we'd like to play a little game that we call Jonathan Jeopardy. As you all know, Jonathan loves to do a little Q&A at any opportunity that he gets to speak. So we're going to start the Jeopardy game with Jonathan Stone for 200. Phrase most often said by Jonathan.
I know. What is, I have a great idea.
That is correct, Stan. This next question has multiple answers. When not at the Bay Center, Jonathan can be found. Anyone have a guess?
Oh, I do. Chopping wood.
Thank you, Bridget. That is correct.
What is training for the Jim Mullen Challenge?
That is correct, Joan. Any other guesses?
It's me again. What is blowing glass?
That is correct, Stan.
What is tapping trees?
That is correct, Katie. Any other guesses?
I have one.
Okay.
What is weaving rugs?
That is correct, Topher. Jonathan Stone for 600. When preparing a graph for Jonathan, in what direction must the arrow go?
I know this one, Maureen.
July?
What is up and to the right?
That is correct. We have one more question, our double Jeopardy question. If I could ask the Save the Bay staff to please stand. I think you might all know the answer to this. Jonathan's favorite fish. Thank you. And now a few of us would like to pay tribute to Jonathan. I'm going to kick it off. Stone.
Fogarty.
I'm going to miss that. To say we were skeptical of each other when we first met is probably an understatement. But here we are, 15 years later, having weathered many storms, celebrated many victories. Under your leadership, Save the Bay has grown stronger than ever. You leave us better than you found us, poised and ready for the future. Thank you.
Jonathan, as some of you may know, and Jonathan does, I've been around this place a really long time. Not as long as Alan, but close. Coming here in 1988 as a board member and then board chair and other such things. I've also been through a lot of transitions, as you can imagine, working with executive directors before Jonathan. When we did the search for Jonathan to replace Kurt, who'd been here for 19 years, it was very stressful and very difficult. But I can tell you that the team that did that search, all of us would say, somehow we found the perfect person in Jonathan. And I'll just leave you with this little comment. When I was board chair or on the search committee, never did I dream that I would actually come back here to work and get to work with Jonathan. So he coined a phrase for the two of us. He's always the lead and I'm the backup. I told someone the other day it's like George Burns and Gracie Allen. But Jonathan coined a name for the two of us, and I hope you'll never forget it. The Jonathan team. And we've had a great time, so I will miss you.
So Jonathan, so for those that don't know me, I was a board chair when Jonathan was hired as executive director. And unfortunately at that time, our balance sheet did not look half as good as it does right now. In fact, it was not going up and to the right, it was going down and to the left. But Jonathan made a decision that he was going to fix that. And he decided that we were going to have a capital campaign. And the word I would describe Jonathan is persistent. Jonathan came up with the idea that everybody said, but we have a building, why would we have a capital campaign? So Jonathan went back to the drawing board and he came back with another idea. And Jonathan went back to the drawing board and came back to another idea. This went on for what?
Wow.
Well, quite a while. But you know, Jonathan wanted to get a boat. Jonathan wanted to finish that pier. Jonathan wanted to hire more people. Jonathan wanted to make sure that we had money in the bank for the next threat to the bay. So Jonathan, I really have to hand it off to you. Persistence paid the day. And of course, at that time, the aquarium was like this little idea that was kind of bouncing around. And look where we are now. And how many times have you swum the bay now? How many times?
17.
And it's going to be 18?
Yeah, 18.
Okay. Persistence, 18 times. Can you imagine? And you know, Jonathan, of course, not only wants to swim the bay, he wants to be the biggest fundraiser when he swims the bay. So if he hasn't already asked you, I'm sure by the end of the night, he'll be asking you to support him. But Jonathan, true legacy, we're only here and so strong in that balance sheet because of everything you've done and all the people that you've gotten involved and gotten engaged. So thank you so much for all of your service.
Jonathan, the policy team has loved working with you. We've always appreciated your smarts and your ability to think quickly and on your feet and be a quick study. But most of all, we've appreciated your intense passion for Narragansett Bay and our mission. You've encouraged us to be creative in our work and to be ambitious and to think big. You've also encouraged us to do what's right and do things the right way, do it for the Bay and do it for Save the Bay. As our executive director, you've always had our backs, and that matters a ton to all of us. Finally, you've continued to build upon the great work of your predecessors, leaving in our hands a Save the Bay that is ascending to its greatest heights yet. That is a tremendous accomplishment, and so we thank you for all you've done and look forward to seeing you again. All right? Thank you. Before we give you the podium, however, there's one more thing we'd like to do.
There's actually three.
There are three.
Yeah, but we'll do one now.
Oh, we'll do, yes, right. We're going to do one now, which is the big one. Yes. And we're going to air a short video to celebrate your time here.
Working at Save the Bay is a privilege, and all of us who work here feel incredibly fortunate to be able to play our own part in protecting Narragansett Bay, this incredibly beautiful resource. I am excited to come into work every day here, and we have an incredible team of dedicated people. There's never a dull moment at Save the Bay. We're busy always, year-round, and I just feel blessed that I've had this opportunity to work here, along with so many great people who really are passionate about the work that we do at Save the Bay.
Keep it going, ladies.
There's been somebody sitting here in the front row that's just been sort of chomping at the bit. He just wants to get up here to the microphone.
Not yet.
Not
We're
yet?
not going to let him do it yet.
We're not?
No, we're not. You have something to announce.
Oh, I thought we were doing that last.
No, we'll do that now.
No, we're doing that now. Okay. Jonathan's going to have to wait a little bit longer. One of the things with Jonathan and has been to try and take what we have at Easton's Beach, the terrific exploration center that so many people love and so many kids have gone through. And Jonathan saw this as so much more potential that there could be. And he has worked for many, many, many years with all sorts of different great, Jonathan has a great idea, right? He always has a great idea. But some of the first ones didn't quite work out, but he stuck with it and he saw this potential. And now we're on the cusp of having our new Hamilton Family Aquarium down in the Gateway Center in Newport. We were there the other night. It is going to be a spectacular facility, and we can't wait till everybody has the opportunity to go down there. But one of the things which is very common in fundraising is we give naming rights out. And hence the Hamilton Family, Save the Bay's Hamilton Family Aquarium. But what we want to unveil here tonight is that we have, and I don't know if everybody can see it, the Stone Family Gallery in honor of Jonathan Stone and his tenacious efforts to make this idea into a reality. So we think this is going to be very fitting to be named the Stone Family Gallery. And Maureen, now can we let Jonathan speak?
Nope.
We can't?
He's used to this. So, Jonathan, hold on, I gotta get this. So I had to hide this because he's always like looking around. If I had this on the table, he'd be like, what is it? Let me see. Jonathan, the staff and board commissioned a Tom Deininger painting to honor your legacy here at Save the Bay. And guess what it's of?
I know. They're a very handsome family.
Now you can.
Now, finally, the moment we've been waiting for is Jonathan Stone.
Before I get into my formal remarks, my kids went to the Gordon School, and there was a fundraising campaign to build a building over there, and they ran out of money for the bathrooms. So there's a little plaque on one of the stalls with my name on it over there. So this is a big step up. So thank you. listen, this is always been a privilege for me to work at Save the Bay. I feel so fortunate. It's been my opportunity to be here with all these incredible people who care so much about Narragansett Bay and the environment and crazy things like fish and turtles and horseshoe crabs and everything else. And I'm really, really honored to be the fourth in a line of three incredible executive directors before me, starting with John Scanlon, who really was the heart and soul. He came up with the name, the bumper sticker, an incredible guy who took this group of volunteers and created an organization, and here we are 53 years later as Save the Bay, a real institution in Rhode Island. Following John was Trudy Cox, who is ever present in Rhode Island as leader of the Newport Preservation Society, and my immediate predecessor and mentor of a sort, Kurt Spalding. Kurt, I see you back there hiding out. Kurt was so great. When I got started here, he was very generous with his time, and he made one really key point that stuck with me ever since, and that is, do not lose your best people. Do not lose your people, because Save the Bay is nothing without its talent. So over the years, we've worked really hard to build a culture, build an organization of super talented people, and we've succeeded, I think. I think you met some of them just now. So as I was thinking about my remarks, and I thought I would have like an hour and a half, but no, Maureen tells me I have 7 minutes, but I'm going to do close to that. But no, anyway, there's so many great things I could talk about, great successes. And I always start with advocacy, because the heart and soul, the lifeblood of this organization is standing up for the Bay and protecting the Bay. And so what do I talk about? Well, I could talk about shutting down Hess Oil Corp's LNG proposal. We did it. I could talk about passing the cesspool phase-out law. Now, mind you, Massachusetts passed it 20 years before us in Rhode Island, but it takes persistence, and we did it. I could talk about spending an hour with Governor Raimondo in her office. Believe it or not, we spent an hour with Governor Raimondo talking about, guess what? My favorite fish, the menhaden. And this was really cool. Mike Jarboe will know this story well, our baykeeper. We lobbied her to use the Clout of Rhode Island, which was a swing vote on the Atlantic States Marine Fishery Commission, to change the way the federal government manages this fishery. And she listened, and she learned, and she used the influence of Rhode Island as one of the states that participate in the Atlantic and the Northwest Atlantic Fishery Commission to advocate for this change, and the federal government adopted the change. It was a major success for all of those who care about this species and all the species that depend on menhaden. And I'm convinced, by the way, that Joe Biden, when he was thinking, I need a Commerce Secretary, what does Commerce do? Well, no one really knows what Commerce does, except for NOAA. So we thought, well, who do I know that knows something about NOAA? And I'm sure Gina raised her hand and said, well, I know all about menhaden. And she said, you got the job. So that's my story about how Gina became our U.S. Commerce Secretary. She may have a different story, but that's my story. I could talk about stopping dead in its tracks a plan to fill 30 acres of the Providence River. Kendra will know that story well, and that's a story to tell over my third drink out there. Passing the first wetlands protection law in 40 years in Rhode Island. The first one since 1970. And we led the fight on that. We led the charge on that. And then, as you heard in the video production, so many incredible habitat restoration projects. And I could talk about them, but I know Winley would affirm what I'm about to say, that each one of those projects was an epic story in its own right. The amount of time and effort and labor and persistence and fundraising to build a project, to complete a project is mind-boggling how much effort it takes, and we have completed dozens and dozens over the last 15 years. So a lot to be proud of, but I'm not going to talk about those things. I could talk about, hold on, I have to flip the page here. Wait a second. I could talk about, here we go. I could focus on surviving not one, not two, but 3 major financial disasters for this organization. Number 1, the Great Recession. There wasn't a nonprofit in Rhode Island that went through that unscathed. That was an incredibly difficult time for Save the Bay and for many other people in other organizations in Rhode Island. Immediately on the heels of that, at that time, we counted on 3 federal grants for 40% of our total revenue and 67% of our education program revenue. 2/3. And it all went away in the course of 1 year. And we survived that. And most recently, we survived the pandemic. And I would just say on the story of the pandemic, and I'm looking at Maureen, who knows what I'm talking about here, we had one major goal on the two goals with the pandemic, getting through the pandemic. Number 1, make sure every employee is healthy. And number 2, make sure they have a job. And we did that. We succeeded in that. And that was a major deal. So I could talk about it, but I'm not going to. I could focus on the incredible progress we've made in strengthening Save the Bay. Save the Bay has always been strong, especially in terms of its political muscle and club. But we've really come a long way in strengthening the organization, paid off the mortgage on the building, $2 million mortgage, hiring a fearless environmental attorney to serve as in-house counsel, building a brand new public pier and dock, which, by the way, after we're done here, go out and take a look. It's spectacular if you haven't seen it. Expanding the On-the-Water Keeper program to include a coastkeeper and coastkeeper and riverkeeper. As it was mentioned in the video, building 2 new custom-designed vessels that are around here affectionately known as Lizzie and the Rosie Q. Completing our $8 million 50th anniversary campaign, engaging thousands of dedicated volunteers each year. Thank you, July Lewis. She's busy. And, of course, building a brand new 7,000 square foot aquarium in Newport, the Hamilton Family Aquarium. But I'm not going to talk about those things. What I really want to focus on are you and our people. What I really treasure most about my role here is that I've had the good fortune as executive director to meet so many incredible people on Block Island. You guys at Great Salt Pond Coalition are incredible, what you've been through and what you've accomplished. And so many others around the Bay who care so much about the watershed and about salt marshes and river herring and you name it. So many great people who are partners with us in so many things that we work on. We do, and I'm getting all verklempt, so bear with me. But what I really want to talk about actually is our talented and dedicated staff. Our team sets a really high standard for excellence. In fact, I'm going to pick on a few of you. And for those I don't mention by name, and I won't be able to mention everybody by name, I want to just say that I appreciate everything you bring to the job every day of the year. It means so much to people who count on us to do the work, whether it's inspiring a 4th grader or passing a law, you name it. So I would like to acknowledge a few of you. Let me begin with Stan Dimmick. Stan, I would like to acknowledge Stan for ensuring that my entire wardrobe is made up of Save the Bay swag. I have not been to a clothing store, except maybe the Gap. I bought socks a couple years ago. I have not, everything I own, really, Kelly bought this shirt for me. I mean, I would have worn a Save the Bay t-shirt tonight. Like the whole closet's filled with sweat. Where's Joan? Joan. All I can say about Joan Abrams is it has been a blast. The Stone and Joan duo, the Jonathon. I mean, fundraising has never been so important for Save the Bay. We all know the adage, no money, no mission. That's true of us as any other organization. But fundraising with Joan is fun. It's not necessarily fun for some of you, because when the phone rings, Joan and I have a tag team approach, and it's mostly successful. In fact, we never hear no. We hear not now. Where's Eric? Is Eric here? Eric, Captain Eric. Eric will love this one. I'd like to acknowledge Eric for teaching me more than I would ever care to know about outdrives and why ball bearings fail, leading to cockpits filling with smoke. Thank you, Eric. I know Adam's here, Adam Kowarski, our lead aquarist, who really has single-handedly put Save the Bay on the map with the Exploration Center in Newport. Adam, you're a genius, you're a talent. And I'd like to thank you for explaining why trunkfish need their own private personal tank. You might wonder why. How could that be? Why would that be? Well, it's because all of the cohabitants, if you put other fish in the tank, they all die. Because trunkfish poison them. Grania, who knew that Irish step dancing could be such a great team-building exercise? If you want to see a scary sight, see some of us in the leadership team trying to do Irish step dancing. That's not pretty. Kendra, is Kendra here? Is Kendra here? Oh yeah, there she is. She's the little one in the back. Kendra, I have to acknowledge you for being such a fierce advocate, for being such a fierce advocate that Grover Fugate, who's the executive director of the Coastal Resources Management Council for 35 years, kind of a legend in the world of coastal programs around the United States, would come visit us every quarter, every 3 or 4 months, and he'd walk in and he would immediately cringe when Kendra went on offense, only to admit, always, without fail, that she was right. Kate McPherson. Kate has joined us actually a while ago. Now it seems like just yesterday, but it was years ago, from the DEM. Kate is an accomplished wetlands biologist. But I want Kate to know that the real reason she got the job, yes, the biology, wetlands biology, that was pretty cool and stuff, but the real reason she got the job is because she's a total bird nerd. And I'm a bird nerd, so that's why she got the job. Now, Wenley Ferguson, I see Wen in the back. Wenley, of course, some of you know Wenley as the swamp lady or the marsh lady. I like to think of Wenley as the swamp lady because that sounds like even more magical. Wenley, hanging around with you in a salt marsh is like mainlining caffeine. Your energy is infectious. It is impossible to match your passion and detailed knowledge of, say, pickleweed or Spartina alterniflora or Spartina patens or rib mussels or Phragmites or salt marsh sparrows or mushroom crabs. Wenley, you are a force of nature. I will never forget our time together here. July Lewis, my lunch buddy, the most gifted and natural public speaker on the staff, here who single-handedly harnesses the enthusiasm and energy and sometimes random things that they do of thousands of volunteers every year. I think I see Ora Hernandez back there. Ora? Is Ora here? Oh no. I just want to recognize Ora for sharing her story with me about how she was first introduced to Save the Bay. It was a program that we run at Central Falls High School, and she went through the high school program and went on from Central Falls to Roger Williams University and landed here and is one of our gifted, talented educators. And Ora, you are a rock star. So I want to acknowledge Aura. Stephanie Hessler for the long days collaborating on grant narratives and uploading proposals to NOAA.gov. By the way, that takes a PhD to do that. It is not easy. Josh Chewinski, is Josh here? Maureen, is Josh here? Oh, Josh had to go. Well, you'll have to relate this to Josh. Josh is our IT guy. Now, Josh could work anywhere outside of this building and earn a lot of money. He's a brilliant guy, a great athlete. And Josh and I would often sort of chew the fat, around the water cooler, so to speak. And we talk about various things. And I would like, what I would ask Josh sometimes is, would you like me to explain to you cryptocurrencies or non-fungible tokens? And thank goodness you never said yes, because I have no clue about what those are. And last but not least in this group, Jackie Carlson, for making me and Joan Abrams and the rest of the development team look really, really good. She is the engine, the horsepower behind our development effort. So here's to Jackie. Now, last but not least, my cuatro amigos, my 4 co-conspirators here at Save the Bay, members of the leadership team: Katie Dorcheese, Bridget Prescott, Topher Hamlet, and Maureen Fogarty. These guys make me look good. It is because of your experience, your wise counsel, your humor, your humility, your honesty, and your passion for the cause that we have achieved so much. Katie, you have a gift for telling stories that move people and for lifting up our whole communication effort across channels, platforms, and content types. We are operating at a level from a communications point of view that we never have before in a much more complicated, challenging world in terms of communications. Bridget Prescott, I love Bridget. Bridget, you were awesome. You have so capably managed the biggest department at Save the Bay, and you've nurtured and supported and trained and led an incredibly talented group of educators. In fact, generations of educators who have come through our program as a staff person and moved on to bigger and better things. So Bridget, you've done an incredible job. Topher, now you've already heard from Topher. Topher, I'm on the fence about Topher. Well, only in one way am I sort of off the fence. Topher he always makes me look bad. He's so sharp. He's always dressed with a tie on. He looks so good. I say to Kelly, why can't I look like Topher? I mean, he looks great. In all seriousness, Topher, you have the unique talent to bring people together from all walks of life together in seeing common cause in our work, common cause in protecting the Bay, and for having the patience and poise to walk through the halls of the state capitol for months on end. And of course, when Topher's there, I'm not there, and I'm really happy about that. And I want to say that this organization is in great hands with Toph as interim executive director as we look for our new leader. Last but not least, I have to spend a few minutes on Maureen Fogarty. Now, Maureen, literally, the truth of the matter is, I could not have done the job without you. You know that. I know that. Now I'm sharing it. Your North Providence moxie, your dedication to the organization, your focus on getting a job done and done well, your willingness to do whatever is required, and I mean at whatever it is, cleaning the plugged up plumbing in this building or sandbagging the exploration center when a nor'easter shows up. Maureen sets the tone for the whole organization. Your sense of humor, your commitment to teamwork, these things all infuse the culture of Save the Bay, and you were such a big part of that. I have to add, when one of my usually well-intentioned but lame ideas actually has merit. You would remind me that even a blind squirrel finds a nut. It has been a great ride. Happily, I'm not gone far. I'm going to be working on the aquarium project to finish that out. And I'm just grateful to all of you for this incredible opportunity to be here. Thank you. Can I hit the gavel here? Or are you doing that?
I'll do
You
it.
do that.
Unless, would you like to?
No, you do.
Well, Jonathan, you've been a spectacular leader for Save the Bay, and we have a great team here. But it's really your leadership has been the major factor and why everybody's been so effective, and we've been able to accomplish all that we have, and we'll forever be thankful for that. And thank you so much. And now with that, the 53rd annual meeting of Save the Bay is adjourned, and we will invite everybody out into the lobby. We may be able to have a drink or two with Jonathan, and he can fill us in on all those stories that he alluded to in his speech. I assume they're all good for public consumption. and then on to Taste of the Bay. So thank you everybody for coming here tonight, and thank you for all you do for the Bay.